Well, my friends, did you tune into SmackDown last night? If you didn't, you made a dreadful mistake. Not really, you can watch whatever the hell you want. But in terms of shows that WWE has done recently, well, this one was pretty damn good. I do have to kind of fly by this because I'm wrestling all weekend. I'm already against the clock. I'm going to be late. But how the hell could I watch the episode of SmackDown and not talk about it? Because we kind of discussed this earlier in the week, given that Seth Rollins had been very adamant he didn't want to be in Blood Games. That's what I'm going to call it from now on, the Blood Games. Who's going to take his place? Now, like the bald nerd idiot I am, I presumed it was just a ruse and eventually we were going to get to Seth Rollins, but we did not. And on SmackDown, after the OG Bloodline, Roman Reigns had gone, let's just try it with 4, and if we die, we die, which apparently the rest were meant to be totally cool with, like he's flipping Ivan Drago. Paul Heyman comes out, probably must get the biggest pop he's ever received in his life, and much deserved. And then he says, I've got you a 5th man. It's CM Punk. SmackDown ends with CM Punk and Roman Reigns looking at each other, which means probably in 2025, we're going to get to that feud. Now, there is so much to get into here. And the first thing I'm going to start with is everything with Paul Heyman, because he was dressed kind of oddly or kind of similarly to Solo Sikoa. Now, again, it could be a ruse, it could be a red herring, but you should do that. Work me, baby. But the other point is there is footage out there. You can see Paul winking at, I believe, Jimmy Uso. Now, go back 7 days, Roman Reigns tried to ring Paul Heyman and his phone wasn't in service, and Roman reacted like, what the hell is going on? He was surprised. The entire Bloodline were surprised. But there was also, I could be reading into this, but there was also this moment when they saw him, Jey Uso especially, he looked at Paul Heyman, and all of a sudden his demeanor changed. Like he saw his attire, and was like, wait, something's going on here. And Punk doesn't like Roman Reigns, so even if he knows the truth, he's not going to care. But then you also have the extra caveat that if CM Punk does help Roman Reigns, you can then move into the CM Punk-Seth Rollins feud, because Seth will be like, you went and helped Roman Reigns after everything that he's done just because you've been away, blah, blah, blah. And that moves Seth into Kevin Owens' Drew McIntyre territory, where he may be the bad guy, but he's absolutely telling the truth. And that's just the surface of all of this. Well, I'm just skimping the surface. I think there's actually more that I wanted to talk about, but I've already forgotten. But there is every chance that it turns out Paul Heyman is working for The Rock now, and he's leading Bloodline 2.0. I mean, I don't know. It wouldn't really make much sense at the same time, because obviously Punk helped the OG Bloodline beat the hell out of Bloodline 2.0, but wrestling always does that kind of stuff, like you kind of circumvent somebody's reality so you can get a bigger reaction down the line. Although WWE recently has also been very good at kind of justifying these things and giving you story plots, but even with all of that, it ties back to a few months ago when Paul Heyman was desperate for somebody to help, and nobody was there but CM Punk, and CM Punk was going to help him, but he got thrown through Al in the announce table anyway. But also, we go back to WrestleMania 40. What was one of the big promo segments I presume we had Paul Heyman do on SmackDown? He said, listen, I'm pulling Roman Reigns out of the draft pool because I haven't heard from him, I haven't seen him, and I don't know where he is. And Roman did not return, even though Solo Sikoa was booing him, and Paul was like, please come and help me. And even when Roman did come back, it wasn't until 3 months later that he tried to ring Paul, and even then, it's because his back was against the wall. So Roman Reigns deserves everything he gets, and everybody should turn on him, and CM Punk should give him a GTS as well during that WarGames match, so in 2025 we can get there. Now, we may not address any of this, and it may be the most standard story ever, and that would also be fine, but the fact we do have all this nuance and all this storyline to jump into, I suppose, and it has proper depth, I just think it's wonderful. Like, I saw some people, and you'll add your opinion as always, going, oh, it doesn't make much sense to me. I think it makes all the sense in the world. Again, we planted those seeds with CM Punk and CM Punk and Paul Heyman months ago, and also, it stands to reason anyway. Like, all WWE has to do is explain this in a video. CM Punk was essentially the OG Paul Heyman guy. They ran roughshod over WWE for, 2 years when he had the championship? Probably longer. Then he's Roman Reigns' dude, but again, CM Punk never turned on Paul Heyman, and maybe Paul Heyman can say that Roman Reigns turned on him. There is evidence to that. And it was just this wink. I don't think I'm going to be able to find the picture because, again, I'm going to have to edit this quicker than my hair fell out. But you should go and watch all of it, and you should study it like it's some kind of David Attenborough documentary. It was truly tremendous, and if wrestling is about crowd noise, again, Paul Heyman gets a mega reaction. CM Punk gets an even louder reaction. The Bloodline sell it like, oh my gosh, a ghost is here. And I want to see what's going to happen on next week's SmackDown. I think there's one more before Survivor Series. Yes, there is. And if you weren't pumped about Survivor Series before, I'd have to imagine it's got into your brain and into your loins now. Just tremendous stuff. And if it sets up CM Punk versus Seth Rollins and it sets up CM Punk versus Roman Reigns, this is what I want in 2025, right? I'd like CM Punk versus Gunther as well, if maybe we can give the world title to CM Punk and then he defends that against Seth Rollins, although I don't want to take it off Gunther either, but that's what I want, right? I want there to be a sense of jeopardy always, and if all of a sudden we do go left when I thought we were going to go right, but the story beats are there, no problem. So it was tremendous. It was really well done, and I'm so intrigued to see what's going to happen at the WarGames now, because if The Rock is leading Bloodline 2.0, which has heavily been hinted at, and if Paul Heyman is going to join them, well, they're probably going to win that as well, and then that's 2-0, because they won at Crown Jewel too. So huge thumbs up. And again, if you have 10 minutes today, I would watch it. You don't even have to watch the setup that Solo Sikoa does at the start of the show when he goes, man, Roman, you have to surrender and we can negotiate the terms. It lasted 2 minutes. Now, I don't know whether it lasted 2 minutes because of a production issue or something, but that's all it needed to be. Just touch on the beats and go on to something else. And right now, I think, is this the best thing in WWE? Well, it's up there because I think the Cody, Kevin Owens stuff is awesome as well. But it's just really, really good stuff. And the fact it has been going on for 4 years, almost 5 years, and we continue to find ways to make it interesting. We also had a line backstage where, who was it? Somebody suggested Cody Rhodes, and Roman just poo-pooed that. And when Sami Zayn pushed for Seth Rollins, again, Roman looked at him like, how dare you say that to me? As if he just shot his family all in the face. So there's so much going on here. And it's why I would just get rid of the brand split. It's so much more fun when you can sort of have this thread going through both of them. Although I think that's going to happen more, given that Raw is going to Netflix and they're going to want to watch a bunch of stars. So, I mean, that was the best thing on the show, but equal to it, or very, just an inch behind, was the Cody Rhodes Kevin Owens promo, which again felt like it was drowning in reality, whether that's true or not. Like, Kevin Owens was on the show because Cody Rhodes said he had to be there. And he told him, he said, listen, dude, before you even came back, Roman Reigns and the Bloodline were trying to end my life. And I fought valiantly, and I never let them take my death away from me, whatever that means. And Cody, when you stood by me, and I stood by you at WrestleMania 38, and WrestleMania 39, and WrestleMania 40. And then as soon as Roman needed a friend, even though he had basically alienated the rest of the locker room, you said yes. You never thought about me. You don't think about anybody because you think the world revolves around you. So once again, he moves into Drew McIntyre territory. Well, I understand you're being pictured the bad guy, but yeah, Kevin Owens, great point. But Cody was awesome too, because he was like, you just want to be the top guy. You forget that's a team effort, but also you are a top guy. You're a Grand Slam champion. You've been running wild over WWE for the last decade, but because you get in your own head and you're basically responsible for your own actions, like you're your own worst enemy, you're never actually going to see things for what they are. And you could have pulled the trigger on me at Bash at Berlin, but you didn't, and that's on you. So then you get mad and you beat up Randy Orton, and then Kevin Owens is like, well, I love Randy Orton, but I hate you. It did feel like two friends that were bickering and that had fallen out. And the fact that Kevin Owens did this from outside the ring in a joke tuxedo shirt, which was another shot of Cody Rhodes, because Cody often comes out there in suit. That's why Kevin Owens is the modern day GOAT. You could argue what he was wearing was essentially goofy wrestling for life, but nothing else was. And it tied into every little thing that he meant. So I do believe that's going to be the main event at Saturday night's main event. I wouldn't mind if Kevin Owens won that championship. I don't think he's going to, and I think probably this leads into Randy Orton going heel, and we're doing the Cody feud before WrestleMania because we have so long to go. But it was just another home run. It was. And these two segments were pretty close to each other. You also had that quick backstage segment where Carmelo Hayes and Cody Rhodes got pushed into a shoving segment. Now, I think that does lead to a match next week. You'd have to presume Cody Rhodes wins that. But Carmelo Hayes stood up for himself here. And I get he's the bad guy, but I actually thought it raised his stock a little bit because he wasn't a wuss. So you can't treat me like that. I don't care who you are. And of course, even with the women's war games, we spiced that up too because Jade Cargill was killed on a car. That's why Bianca Belair didn't win her US title match and Chelsea Green won it, which is also a massive tick. But yeah, somebody has taken Jade Cargill out not to dinner. So we now need a replacement, and it just added a little bit of gravitas to a match that kind of felt like it'd been thrown together. And also we allowed Rhea Ripley to come out at the end and whoop everybody's ass with Kenny the Kendo Stick. Never gonna get mad at that. You know my thoughts on it. She should always be booked like a badass because she feels like a badass. But it just sort of felt like somebody sat down, probably Triple H or Paul Levesque, whoever, and was like, how do we add the secret sauce into all of these matches, especially the War Games matches and the Kevin Owens Cody Rhodes match, which kind of already had it, and we totally did it. Now, the weird offset of this is when we got to the LA Knight stuff, we had an open challenge against Santos Escobar, and Shinsuke Nakamura whipped his ass afterwards. it didn't feel as good. Like, it's fine, but everything else was on such a high level. We need to kind of come up with a bigger plan, I think, for the United States Championship, because LA Knight's a massive superstar. He gets an amazing pop. There's no problem there. It could just be that WWE, I mean, this is way before Triple H's time, has never really used Shinsuke Nakamura correctly. So in many ways, if he won here, that would actually increase his stock and make you go, oh my gosh, but it's also not the right time, or at least it doesn't feel like it. But that wasn't bad by any stretch of the imagination. It was just in comparison. And look, the Naomi, Bayley, Candice LeRae, Tiffany Stratton match, that ended in a DQ, but it also set up all the WarGames stuff. So, the DQ was late. It wasn't very good. But once in a while, I don't mind. And even as a smaller side, the men's tag team division on SmackDown's finally got going. This three-way we're doing between the Street Profits, the Machine Guns, and DIY is awesome, because Tommaso Ciampa can't handle it. Montez Ford beat him with the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, the surprise roll-up. And then he shoved Johnny Gargano his ass again. So I think DIY should turn heel. Let's just do it, man. Let's see how it rolls. Street Profits, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin have to be mega baby faces. But just those three teams having beef with each other just made it way more interesting. Like, there was a stat, I think that the Judgment Day on Raw have held the belts for like 200 days. They've had one title defense. It's not been a great year for men's tag team wrestling ever since WrestleMania, which was a shame, because that's when we split the belts. Talked about this. I think it should always be one set of championship. But this is good. This is interesting stuff, and you want to see how it's going to develop. But it really was the Bloodline and the Cody stuff that they just hit it out of the park. Like, you could argue this could have been the go-home show, which is happening next week, but who cares? We still got it. And if the idea is to get me pumped for the pay-per-view, which is happening in 6, 7, 8 days, or a week today, I suppose, as I am recording this, just awesome stuff. Really, really good. And if Paul Heyman does betray Roman Reigns, I mean, it doesn't make all the sense in the world. I think long-term, Paul Heyman is probably better as a bad guy character. He's shown that over the years. And would it allow Roman to become a bigger babyface? I mean, arguably. I do think he kind of needs to leave it all again. He never apologized to Sami Zayn or Jey Uso. Jimmy Uso, I'm now starting to think, is a plant, which actually would explain a lot of what he's done, which would be genius. And once again, Paul Heyman was kind of left out in the lurch, and CM Punk doesn't have to care about this. CM Punk should make it very clear he does not care about Roman Reigns. And if you can come up with a way for him to hit a GTS in the cell, and then Roman has to deal with the Bloodline before doubling back round to Punk, who doesn't want to see that match? Especially now, because we've reintroduced the fact that Paul Heyman does have a friendship with both of them. So, tremendous SmackDown. So good. Almost disappointed I can't talk about it longer, but I did just want to sit down and have a quick chat about it. But again, you can get more of my thoughts on What Culture and Ups and Downs. Subscribe there. Subscribe here too. Otherwise, look, the Black Friday sale's on, right? Let's talk about that. GorillaMind.com/Simon. 30% off everything with my code Simon. Some things are 50% off. You're going to get free shipping. You can get Gorilla Mode bars. It's all up there. You can get all the information. And they have their mega competition to win a damn Corvette too. So just go to GorillaMind.com/Simon today. If you're into supplements, it ships worldwide. I vouch for them. They're super duper good. Otherwise, you can find me on social media at Simon316. Make sure you interact with this video, like it, share it, subscribe it, click the video on the screen. The notification bell is probably the most important thing. Otherwise, patreon.com/Simon316. At GoGo Fitness, you just go to Simon20, ProWrestlingTees.com/Simon Miller, TikTok, Simon J. Miller. And then we got something else. What is it? A Cameo, Simon Miller. Just search for my name on all these things, and my stupid bald head pops up. And if you are around tomorrow, which is Sunday the 24th, you can watch my Progress show, where I'm defending my Proteus Championship. It's on Triller TV, and it's on Progress Demand, so you can get all those things too. And I shall stop ranting and raving. I must go. I have to wrestle today, but I love you, and I'll see you soon.